Good afternoon, everyone, and I hope you're enjoying this Thursday. This is Freestyle Solutions. Today, we're going to be going over how to, in M.O.M, effectively manage your customers. Just to do a few housekeeping things before we really get the ball rolling, just to let everyone know, this webinar is in fact recording, so if you tend to drop off because something comes up, if you join later on in the webinar today, don't worry, we are recording this. This will be sent out to all of our customers, whoever, they want to share this, whatever the case may be, at 24 hours after completion of this webinar. So be on the lookout any emails tomorrow for an email from us in regards to this webinar recording. Also, just to point out, we do like questions. We actually love questions. So any questions that you do have during this webinar today, feel free to go ahead and just ask us questions in the GoToWebinar questions bar, which is shown here. You can type your questions here, and we'll be checking it periodically and answering the questions that you guys may have today. We also did do a nice thing, and we decided to give you a handout. Today's handout is the slide deck for today's webinar. Just very straightforward and basic, gives you an idea of these slides here that we're going over, so you can go ahead and review them and go along with them as we show the presentation today. Your webinar guides today, you may recognize one familiar face in Ian Otto. He is the Director of Project Management. I'll have him introduce himself in a little bit. But I'm going to introduce myself. I'm a new voice for those who haven't heard my voice before. I'm Sean Taggart. I am the Product Marketing Manager here at Freestyle Solutions. I've been with the company about 4 years. I took this role on about a year ago. Prior to that, I was in the support and implementation side of things, and then I just wanted to start doing a little bit more of my passion, marketing and stuff like that. So I actually came over and started doing that stuff, like I said, last April. So it's been a year and a month since I've been doing that. Ian?
Thanks, Sean. My name is Ian Otto, Director of Product Management. Been with the company about 11, close to 12 years now. Started in support, then managed support and implementation, and now I'm managing the product team, helping design new features and functionality within M.O.M and the Sitely products.
Once again, thanks again for joining us today, and thank you guys once again for joining today. We're going to keep it brief, short, and sweet. We don't want to take all of your time because I know you guys are very busy. It's near the end of the week. So here's our agenda. We're going to keep it short and sweet. We're going to talk about the customer management functions in M.O.M. We're going to talk about how to manage customers in M.O.M, manage your pricing, manage customer contact within M.O.M. We're going to do a brief review at the end, and then we're going to open up the floor to questions. Any questions you may have, obviously, like I mentioned in the beginning of the webinar, ask us in the questions panel on this GoToWebinar. But we will take the questions as they come in. But if there's anything else that leads up to prior to us doing that, we will be asking you the questions, or asking you to ask us questions. So we're going to get right into it. Paint the scenario and give you an idea of how we're going to be doing this today. Ian's going to talk about a little bit tips and tricks of what he's been, in the system for about 11, 12 years, as he mentioned in his brief intro. So he may have some tips and tricks that you may not be aware of, how to get certain tasks for your customer management, make it a little bit more streamlined, more easier for you, and some things you may not know that M.O.M can actually do for you to go ahead and manage the customers in M.O.M. So obviously one thing we're going to be talking about is manage customer expectation and impedance by talking about, different customer type codes, the customer comments, and the contact history from a customer record. You can actually go ahead and view your customer's activity, see when their last order was. You can actually go ahead also and see just, last point of contact, whatever the case may be, you get to see that here in M.O.M. You can manage customer communication, so if you wanted to see email communication, they picked up the phone, and you wanted the live call information, what the call was, and brief notes about that, you can do that. How we store extra customer contact information, so for example, extra phone numbers, email addresses, so on and so forth. We also will take a look at, seeing your last recent customers. Instead of, scouring and looking through your whole customer list, we have the ability to see your last recent customers that you went into their record for, and if they call in and they happen to be the one that you need to go into, you just hit the jackpot and you go jump in right to that customer record without really doing a full search. And obviously, our customers, we can also add attachments to them, and we'll talk about that. So before I throw it over to Ian, I'm going to open the floor up to questions. Feel free to ask us any questions at any given time. We do encourage the questions. The more questions you give us, the more interactive and more fun it will be for everyone involved. So I'm going to pause for 30 seconds for a quick time for you to digest everything and then ask all your questions. All right, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give the presenter rights to Ian. Ian's going to actually go in M.O.M itself and talk about some of those key things that I just talked about. Ian, it's all yours.
Thank you. And Sean, can you verify you can see my screen?
I can see.
So, like Sean mentioned, we're going to go into the customer record and kind of see how to manage the customer. So, typically, when you look up in M.O.M, first thing is that you can see in my lookup, you have a last name, a company, and a zip code. Typically, that's how you look it up. But within the global parameters of M.O.M, you can actually look up by first name. Very helpful when you're looking up common last names. You want to include a first name with it as well, so it makes your search easier. Also to note, on the search on the bottom here, you can actually have different search criteria. It defaults to the normal, but you do have control on this on the user level. So if you want it to always expanded, meaning it always shows all the names that you can possibly look up in the system, you can do expanded, or you can always do normal, where it excludes any shipping address and contact name. So it really depends on your preferences, how you want to look up. So once a customer calls in, you can actually look up by last name or zip code, like I mentioned. But what you quickly see here is the different tabs that you can access within M.O.M. Now, each of these tabs have certain information that you can access. Also, I want to note that each of these tabs can be defaulted to. So, most cases, it's defaulted to the general tab, which is the most common place where you can gather all the information on the client, on who you're talking to, and how to make sure that you treat the customers properly based on the different type codes they might have or comments on the customer. So maybe this customer is a VIP customer, and VIP customers might have a certain offering or certain set of procedures on how to handle them. You can put some comments in here so that your CSRs can quickly assess who they're talking to and how to handle that particular customers. Some key notes here is the type codes. Obviously, the type codes are important to identify and categorize your different types of customers. We have 3 levels of them. We have the first type code, which contains 1 character. The second contains 2 characters, and third can contain up to 4 characters. And again, those are different ways to categorize your customers so you can identify them. Now, these type codes come into play when you do pricing with the client. So if you're offering certain price breaks or discounts based on a particular client or category, you can use the type codes. You can use them from the customer level, the item level, and the order level discount that you have in M.O.M. Also, in the customer comments, like I said, it's a nice way to put in comments that for your CSRs to quickly identify how to assess this particular customer and how to properly address and take their orders and how to treat this customer. So with this screen, you see a lot. So those are keeping them on point up, but also over here you can see what type of customers they are based on their orders. So this particular customer of mine has 19 orders. And if you actually do mailings from within M.O.M, you actually count how many mailings you've sent or communications back to the customer. And if you actually do RFM, which is the recency, frequency, and monetary value within M.O.M, you can quickly see how much value this customer is to you guys. So again, you can create those scales or weights within list management, and then you can automatically update your customers based on whatever values you give them. And you can also use the RFM to actually be part of the discount. So you might want to be giving this higher discounts to higher rated customers.
Sure, yeah. Just to break it up a little bit, we did get a question from Anissa. Does the type code pricing work on SiteLink?
Yes. So if you're talking about the product side, we do publish that price table to SiteLink and also the order promotion. The same thing with the customer, Anissa. So all the type code pricing would work in SiteLink as a qualifier. Obviously, this would require a customer that's already existing in site, so they would have to be logged in. So that way, once the information is set to SiteLink, they would have a type code. If it's a guest customer, they won't have a type code, so it won't apply to them. So this would be more for returning customers that would actually work for in the SiteLink side. So moving on, we have the contact history. So within M.O.M, you can actually create contacts. And this is important to keep track on different conversations you might have with a customer. So as a CSR, I might be talking to Sean, and Sean's asking for a discount, or he might be doing a return. You can type all that conversation right here, and you can save that. Or I can even go as far as scheduling a call to follow up on Sean. So I can say, call Sean on the 5th, and I can assign a different CSR to actually make the follow-up for me if I'm not going to be able to do it. If not, then I can assign myself to do the follow-up. So I can save that. You can also have, I didn't set up scripts there, but if you have scripts for your CSRs, you can actually read the different scripts here.
Is there a limit to how many scripts you can create?
No, you can create as many scripts as you'd like. Okay. And also the call interest level. So this is a nice way to kind of categorize the different calls that comes into your system by your CSR. So it might be 0 might be a return conversation, but a 1 might indicate this is a suggestion. A 2 might be an item enhancement that their client want, or a size color. So you can actually categorize this and define this as what each interest levels are actually, what she actually means in your system. And then obviously we have a corresponding report within M.O.M to show you those, so that if you want to see, hey, how many return conversations did my CSR get this week? You can actually run a report against that based on the interest level. So once you save here, you can see that particular call is over here, and now it's in history. So you can imagine as different calls comes in for this particular customer, you'll have a history of a different conversation. So very useful for when maybe I'm out of the office and Sean picks up and gets the same client. Sean can quickly review all the history here and pretty much get caught up on what's going on, so that the client doesn't have to necessarily explain and start from the beginning on what needs to be done on this particular account. Going back to the general, because I want to highlight the view customer activity information. This is a nice tab here to actually give you what's going on with the customer in a snapshot. So you can see when they last ordered, when we last called them, when the last time we sent them something, sent the last catalog, and last time we modified information or corrected their address. So if you want to look for that type of information, it's right on the General tab. Also, you have on the phone numbers and emails, you have a main phone number, which is going to be up here, and a main email, which is going to be down here. But you also have an ability to add as much as different phone numbers. You might have a business phone number versus a personal number, a mobile, or a home. You can add that right here and categorize it to what kind of number it added, so that that record will have a phone number attached to it. Same thing with emails. You can add additional emails to each record, so you're not limited to just one email, one phone number. It's actually as much as you'd like to track for that particular record. Now, for clients that have business part B2B where it's different time zones, it's nice to put in their best time to call, and based on your company information or based on their time zone, we can actually translate that so that when you actually make a new contact here, best time to call would actually show right here, so that when the CSR needs to follow up with a particular vendor they can say, okay, I need to call them around 9 because around 12 Eastern because they're Pacific time. So 9 o'clock Pacific time works best for them. So I'm going to call them at 12. So again, a nice way to manage that communication back and forth between you and your vendor. Next is we have attachments. Here, if you selling pharmaceutical products or products that require license and some documentations, you can actually use the attachment here. So you can add attachments. So we support PDF, documents, spreadsheets, images, and then if it's doesn't fall to one of those categories, you can mark it other. But it will still be attached to the customer so that if you need to refer to that documentation, it can easily be accessed. So that's how you pretty much manage the different things you could do with the customer record. Also here we have the fraudulent and expired. So if you actually mark fraudulent here, it'll actually make your customer not be able to place an order. You can see when I click on new orders, I can't do that. So if you have fraudulent customers, you might be able to check this off so that you can prevent them from placing orders within your M.O.M system. Cool. One last thing on that list Sean mentioned. During the busy season, typically you would have your CSRs handling multiple calls in the call center. They might be placing orders on the M.O.M system, they're taking a call, and they might be placing orders on hold. And typically, you only have this option to put orders on hold in M.O.M historically. What we did introduce is the recent customers and allow you to easily look at what the last customers you looked at. The advantage of using recent customers versus temporary hold is temporary hold actually locks the order so nobody else can access that order. They can only have read access to it. So it's better to actually, if you want somebody else to handle that order, to actually go into it and save it so it's not on hold for you, because then if it's temporary hold, once again, you only have access to it, nobody else. So the advantage of going to the recent customer under our file menu here is I can easily look at all the couple clients I've been working on. You can see that Ian was one of the clients I was working on. I can highlight that and I can select that, and then I can go back to Ian's record without holding up a particular order. So that's an advantage and very helpful during the busy season.
Excellent, Ian. Thanks for showing us all that so far here within M.O.M in terms of customer management. We're going to pause for 15 seconds. Any questions that you guys do have? Anissa, thank you for your question. Hope we answered it well for you. But if anyone else has any questions, feel free to ask us now, and we'll answer it by the time you hear our voices again. So we did get another question here. Ian, if you want to answer it. If you have multiple emails, what email address will the LM pull?
The LM pull will actually pull up the main address. If you're basing it on order information or customer information, it's going to pull the main email address. However, if you want to just pull all the email addresses, there is a include or a criteria there that you can actually pull all the email addresses out of the LMM. So hopefully that answers your question, Lisa.
So here we go. We're going to go to what we're going to show next. We're going to talk about managed customer pricing within M.O.M 10, and mainly it's around special pricing. So we're going to show about customer type pricing. You can do product-specific pricing by an individual customer, and then we're going to talk about your flat percentage discount with start and end date if necessary, and then your tier pricing and discounting. Really just going to jump right into M.O.M and have Ian show it real quick. But if you do have any questions while we do the switch over from my screen to Ian, be sure you ask now. Ian, I'm going to pass it over to you while I do that. Make presenter. Yes. And you're good.
So like I mentioned before, there's 3 levels of pricing within M.O.M. I'm going to start with the order level, which is the order promotions, which is within here. And I'm going to tie that back to the customer type. So within the order promos here, you can actually hit new, and within the M.O.M 10, you have a bunch of new promotions that's available to you, particularly the buy one, get one, the product class, and product class options. But depending, it doesn't matter which promotion you get, but the main thing you want to get out of this is that the promotion qualifiers. Within the promotion qualifiers, we have those type codes and the RFM, which I mentioned in the initial demonstration on the customer record. So you can tie any order promotions based on type codes. So if you were going to give a $1 discount or BOGO only to certain type of customers, your distributors or your retailers or your wholesalers, you can do that within our system. So that's the first level promo that you can do. You can leverage the different customer type codes. The second level that you can apply the type codes are on within a particular product. So within a product here, I'm going to go to pricing. I can actually go edit the special pricing of a product and only make that available for a particular type code. In this case, one in mind. But that could be retail, distributor, or it could be a combination of the 3 different levels of type codes that you have. So now you have an order level where you can leverage the type codes. Now you have an item level that you can leverage the type code on. So, once you categorize your customers, you can really you become really flexible on who you want to offer the discounts to and what combinations you'd like. So again, the type codes tie back to the order level, the item level. Now I'm going to go over to the customer level. There's also over here. So with the customer level, you're giving a specific price to the customer itself based on a particular stock number. So if this B2B client or vendor or end client has a, they order a certain number of stock and the quantity, you can also apply a discount here on the special pricing. Within the special pricing here, you have the start and end date, so when you actually want to offer this particular discount.
And that's price break. Optional. You don't have to put a start and end date.
Yeah, obviously, if you don't put a start and end date, that's going to go on for infinity. Obviously, best if you do a start and end date, that way there's an end date and you don't have a outstanding promo that's going to be ongoing forever. On here as well, we have a straight discount for a particular client. So you have if you want to give 10%, no matter what, let's know on top of every single order they have, it's going to get 10%. And again, there's a start and end date, so that way you can offer the client on a certain range and you don't have it open the whole time. Also, we have unapplied promotional credits. If you want to give a credit, typically, a $10, a $50 credit, you can do that here. And what happens is that when you actually apply, when you open up an order and there's a balance, you can the model will actually prompt you if you want to actually apply the promotional credit there. This goes back to the customer appeasement that we brought up in the beginning. People use the promotional credit, but a lot of people actually also use the points and rewards. So as you buy items in M.O.M, you can have your clients earn points. But you can also assign points to clients. So if you want to give them, hey, instead of if you ship the wrong item and you want to try to appease the client, you want to give them, hey, I'll give you an extra 100 points that you can use towards your next order or something like that. That's something one of our clients are actually using, and it's been working pretty well for them. So those are the different special pricing we have, and on the customer side. Again, we have the tier discount over here, the flat, and then all the item level and the order level discount based on the type codes of the customer record. So that's the special pricing side on the client side. So I'm going to stop here and open up for questions and also give it back to Sean.
We did actually have a question. Is the RFM value something that we have to set parameters for, or is it automatic?
That is for ratio. Yeah. Yes, that's something you set the parameters for. So let me just show you how to do that really quick. If you guys are familiar with list management, within here, you can actually maintain your RFM analysis settings. And from here, you can hit the different weights that I was talking about. So again, RFM stands for recency, frequency, and monetary value. So if you want to start with, let's say monetary value, anybody that's spent, let's say 100 to 200, I want to get a weight that in a month period. I want to get a weight value of 2. I can save that. Then I can hit another monetary value. Anybody that hit 201 to 300 in 1 month period, I'm going to give it a, what did I give the first one? 3. So once you have set up this, Rachel, you can actually hit process here. And what that will do is actually go back to our M.O.M database and the customer records and our order records and evaluate and then assign a value based on the weight that you've set up here. So you can actually set up all that weight and scales here and you process it, and what happens after you complete that is you get a result on the customer record that you can quickly assess over here. So you can see my system has an RFM value of 2 because I've spent over that between $100 and $200 on an order. So okay, excellent.
So what we're going to do is, while we're once again switching over from Ian's screen to my screen, we're going to pause it for about 30 seconds again. Any questions that you guys do have, feel free to ask. And then we're going to go on to our next set. We are nearing the home stretch. So like I said, throw in those questions, ask us whatever you want. Doesn't also have to be customer related, but if you guys do want to ask us anything, feel free to. All right, we're going to go into our final area for today. We're going to talk about managing customer contacts in M.O.M. Very straightforward. We're going to talk about managing customer notices, contact history. Once again, we did touch on it briefly in the last couple sections. We're going to talk about the contact profile once again. And then last but not least, what is very important for all of our customers, how to maintain those relationships, how to make sure those customers keep coming back to you, how to make sure that you handle their escalations, you handle their issues that they may call about, how to handle the returning, stuff like that, to make them happy and want to continue purchasing. So once again, I'm going to throw it over to Ian, who's going to go over and give you a little bit of a show. So Ian?
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So let's talk about notices first in M.O.M. You can access notices via advertising and customer notices here. Within M.O.M, you can design your own notice. So here you have a notice where you can make it HTML, and you have an HTML editor, you can use WYSIWYG. And you can also make it RTF if you'd like, if you don't like HTML. And you can also attach an attachment on it. So when you actually send the notice, it has an attachment to it. The key thing here is that you have what we call keywords in M.O.M. So the keywords is pretty much like a mail merge. So that if I say first name, and depending on what record I'm sitting on, it would actually throw the first name in there. So that way you have a merge to say it's more customized and it feels like it's geared towards a particular customer. So it would say, dear Ian, and thank you for whatever message you have here. A lot of our users actually use the notice to inform our client regarding their shipping confirmation or order confirmation things. But what you have here is a list of keywords that's readily available. We also have additional keywords that you can use within our help file. There's order-related keywords or give-to keywords. Also note that if you are sending notices, you can restrict it Sometimes I've seen it on the support side where notice is only allowed on a certain particular function. So be mindful of that you don't set that to none if you want it to go out every time. But if you do want to restrict it, you can do that right here. I found that it's mostly none is the common setting, but I've seen it where it's accidentally set to only allowed in order entry, where when someone's trying to run a batch or they're doing it on the customer record, they can't send a notice and they wonder why. Typically, there's a restriction on the notice itself. So I would suggest going that to none. So once the notice itself is set up, different notices that you can do: shipping confirmation, order confirmation, credit card denial, efficient credit card information, things like that. You can actually send that notice in multiple ways. You can actually send that from within the customer record under the new contact. So under the new contact, you can hit new there. You can go to written contact, and then you can pick and choose the notice you actually want to send to the client. Let's say I want to go back to my new prospect, and if I want to customize that further, because let's say you made a generic notice, you can actually customize it and add additional information to it specific to that client on the fly. Once you save that changes, then you have the option to either email it or print it to the printer. If you email it, you can actually send on save, depending if you want to send it right away or you want to send it during the process in stage 6 in the batch process. So if you send on save, it actually email it right now. So this is very, very helpful for CSR who wants to send a particular notice or communication during a phone call with a client. So they would just check this, send on save, and once they save out, it would send a notice to the customer on the record using their main email address. And once that email is sent, what it does is it actually keeps track of under the contact history. So it would tell me that we sent a notice to Ian at this time and who sent it. That way you can keep track. You know, they know if you're doing marketing or things like that through list management, you can keep track who you sent the notice to and if they actually got it. And it would keep a record here for you so you can keep track of that. Next thing is the contact and addresses. Now, this goes back to the question Anissa posed in the beginning regarding what email address is used in M.O.M. So if you use it over here, the additional, it won't be picked up in list management as part of the ordering. But what you could do as an option is you can create another customer record and mark it the ship to or the ship to or the bill to, the sold to, alternate, contact, or gift. And within list management, you can actually include the gift to name or the bill to name or the alternate address or the contacts. That way, when you send a marketing email out, you can include all those extra contacts you might have and you might want to include in the marketing that you guys are sending out. So, Anissa, for you, I would suggest making sure that you create different relationships to the customer if you want to add additional emails, so that way you can leverage list management to send them out. Again, this is nice one place to see all the different relationships for this client. So this is helpful if you have multiple ship tos, multiple give tos, and things like that. You have one place where you can see who is this client related to. That way, if you want to find out who Ian's ship to is, I can quickly, if I go back to the Ian's record here, Ian's ship to record, I can see that the bill to is Ian and has my main address information here. So it's a nice way to kind of keep track of the different relationship of the client. Also useful when you're sending out emails to the different contacts that you might have attached to that client. So let's say if I was sending an email blast from M.O.M and I want to make sure that I get all Ian's contact, including Sean and Robert, I can make sure I include the alternate address and contacts in list management, and when I send that notice out, it would actually include Sean and Robert, even though they're not the primary contact records in the system. So that is the different way to actually manage the customer contacts within M.O.M. So let's stop it right there. I want to see if I'm going to open up the floor for more questions. Anything specific to your business I'd like to hear so we can address them. And for now, I'm going to give back the screen to Sean.
All right, so what did we exactly learn today? We honestly discussed a lot in the 3 areas, but some main takeaways obviously are for managing customers, how you can view the activity of your customers so you can see the last time you reached out to them, the last time they placed an order, so on and so forth. You can, manage the customer communication, send out emails from managing the handle call logs, call history, manage customers' expectation and appeasement. Then we went and talked a little bit about pricing itself. So we talked about the managing pricing based on customer type. Customer-specific pricing, so only that one individual customer will get it. Then we also talked about tier pricing. And finally, we talked about managing the different aspects of customer contact within M.O.M, which are your notices, your contact history, your contact profile, and then intertwining relationships between all your customer records within M.O.M and making sure that, you get the most out of them. So with that being said, we do want to thank you guys for coming out today and listening to us talk about M.O.M and also about customer management in M.O.M. If you guys do have any questions whatsoever, feel free to reach out to marketing@freestylesolutions.com, or you can reach me directly at Sean.Taggart, that's SHAWN.TAGGART@freestylesolutions.com. We want to hear your feedback. We want to know what you guys want to learn about, because most important thing is when it comes to these webinars, we want these to be interactive. We want these to be fun. We want these also to be something that you guys are definitely interested in. So feel free to reach out to me with any of those comments about today's webinar, what you want to see going further. With that being said, I'll give you back 20 minutes on this Thursday afternoon. Have yourself a nice rest of the day. Enjoy your weekend.